Hey guys, and welcome to my pitch for Cardcraft, a simplified deck builder that sees the player selecting cards to play and earning currencies based on their selections. I'm making this game for Game Jam Plus 2526, and the theme that I've selected is Small Scope, Big Fun. There are so many great deck building games out there, but they run the risk of getting complex fast. Cardcraft aims to boil down mechanics in this genre to the essentials, while staying true to core mechanics that make them so much fun in the first place. Deck building contains an element of strategy. You start out with a preset deck of cards and have to choose carefully which cards you would like to add to your deck. But deck building also contains an element of chance. It doesn't help when your deck contains cards that synergize perfectly, but you don't draw them together in the same hand. It is this blend of strategy and chance that has led to the success of games like Balatro and Slay the Spire. Let's take a closer look at Cardcraft and the anatomy of the board. This is the player's draw pile. Cards are stacked here, face down, and in random order, so the player doesn't know which cards will be drawn next. At the start of the game, the draw pile will contain 10 cards. This is the player's hand. Cards are fanned out, face up, so the player can clearly see their choices for which cards to play. At the start of a turn, the player's hand will contain 5 cards. And this is the player's discard pile. Cards are stacked here, face up, so the player can see the last card that was played. Once the draw pile is empty, the discard pile will be shuffled and placed face down in the draw pile. This means that the deck will keep rotating from the draw pile, to the player's hand, to the discard pile, and back to the draw pile. This circular pattern will continue for as long as the player has turns remaining. Next, we'll be taking a look at the anatomy of a card. Each card has a back, which is only cosmetic. It is up to the player to decide which design should display here. Each card also has a front, which lists the resources that the player would gain if they played that card. Theoretically, there is no limit to the type or amount of resources that a card can grant the player. Next, we'll be taking a look at the different kinds of resources in the game. This is how many points the player needs to earn to pass the level. This number goes up every time the player plays a card containing a gem icon. This is how many turns the player has remaining and is represented by a heart icon. This number goes down at the end of a turn. The winning and losing conditions are decided by these two resources. The player needs to reach the point requirement before running out of turns. This is how many coins the player currently has in their wallet. This number goes up every time the player plays a card containing a coin icon. This number goes down when the player reaches the shop and decides to buy new cards for their deck. Next, we'll be taking a look at the anatomy of the shop. This is the player's deck and shows all of the cards that they currently own. This is the shop's inventory and shows all of the cards and cosmetics that the player can buy. Cards in the shop will grant the player resources that allow them to do more during their turn. The lightning bolt icon refers to how many cards the player can play from their hand before their turn is over. The card icon will bring additional cards from the draw pile into the player's hand. The bin icon will discard cards from the player's hand into the discard pile. Initially, the player will have to purchase cards that enable them to keep meeting gem requirements. But eventually, they will have coins to spare and can start using them to purchase cosmetics. In future, I'd love to include a proper tutorial in the game, as well as a story mode. In the story, the player and their crew would work together to meet the Empire's increasing demand for precious gems. Each crew member prefers to run their mining operations slightly differently. Depending on which crew member the player selects, they would receive a different buff from that crew member. I hope that you enjoyed this pitch for Cardcraft and that you see the same potential as I do when looking at this game. Thanks for listening, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.